The champagne glass trembled in my hand, not from anger. From clarity. My sister stood beneath a banner that read "Congratulations, Olivia." Gold confetti still clung to her shoulders as she smiled like she'd just conquered the world. Maybe she thought she had. She tapped her fork against her glass. "And let's not forget my brother," she said, her tone sweet enough to rot teeth. "Jasper has zero education and absolutely no expectations attached to him. His role? Living off us." The room erupted. My parents laughed first. That hurt more than the strangers. I felt the weight of every unpaid favor, every temporary stay in their guest room after I dropped out of community college, every look that said almost good enough. The scent of citrus cleaner mixed with expensive perfume. Someone nearby muttered, "Yikes." Someone else avoided eye contact. I raised my glass. I even smiled. To the very last time I paused long enough for the air to shift. Confused silence for weakness. A few guests chuckled awkwardly. Olivia rolled her eyes. My dad leaned toward my mom and whispered something I couldn't hear, but I knew the tone. Dismissive. Predictable. They thought this was just another awkward moment I'd swallow. They didn't realize something inside me had already closed. And I wasn't planning to open it again. The laugh track of that room kept playing in my head long after the music resumed. I set my glass down carefully like it might explode if I gripped it too tight. Olivia was already being pulled into another circle of congratulations. Promotions at 32 come with speeches and catered salmon and people who suddenly remember your birthday. I drifted toward the kitchen. Mom followed me. "Don't make a scene," she whispered as if I'd been the one with the microphone. I didn't. "You embarrassed her." I looked at her, really looked. Her lipstick had smudged slightly at the corner. She always fixed things. Stains. Wrinkles. Narratives. "I embarrassed her?" I asked softly. Dad appeared in the doorway, tie loosened, holding a bourbon like a prop. "Son, you've got to grow up eventually. Your sister worked for this. You could have at least clapped." I nodded. That was my flaw. I nodded when I should have spoken. The dishwasher hummed behind us. Someone outside popped another bottle. Celebration swelling again like nothing had cracked. "I'm not staying here," I said. Mom sighed. "Where would you even go?" That question used to terrify me. Tonight it felt different. Because for the first time I didn't need an answer to leave. And as I stepped out the front door into the cool night air, I realized something quiet but undeniable. They didn't know I'd already started building something they weren't invited to see. The night air smelled like cut grass and exhaust. I stood at the edge of the driveway while laughter floated through the open windows behind me. For a second I almost turned back. Old reflex. Apologize. Minimize. Blend in. Instead I walked. My truck was parked 3 houses down because Olivia didn't want it clashing with the aesthetic. I'd laughed when she said that earlier. I don't think I'll ever hear that word the same way again. When I opened the driver's door, my phone buzzed. "Dad, don't overreact." "Mom, please don't ruin tonight." "Olivia, you always make things about you." I stared at the screen until it went dark. Overreact. That word has followed me my whole life. When I quit college after realizing I hated the business track they picked for me, I was overreacting. When I spent 2 years apprenticing under a contractor instead of finishing my degree, wasting potential. When I quietly paid off Mom's credit card during Dad's surgery, coincidence. I started the engine. The radio flickered on, some country song about second chances and back roads. I turned it off. They thought I had no direction. What they didn't know, what none of them bothered to ask, was that for the last 18 months, I'd been building custom furniture out of a rented warehouse space on the edge of town. Slowly. Quietly. And tomorrow morning I was supposed to sign a lease that would change everything. But as I pulled away from the curb, I saw headlights in my rearview mirror. Dad's car. And he wasn't letting this one end quietly. Dad followed me through 2 stop signs before flashing his brights. I pulled into the empty parking lot of a closed pharmacy. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, turning everything pale and unreal. He parked beside me, engine still running like this was a pit stop, not a confrontation. He stepped out first. "You're being dramatic," he said before I even closed my door. "I left a party. You humiliated your sister." I leaned against my truck. My hands were steady now. That surprised me. "She humiliated me." Dad scoffed. It was a joke. "You know how Olivia is." Yeah, I did. The golden child. The measurable one. Degrees framed. Titles earned. Applause guaranteed. "You've always been sensitive," he added, softer now. "You never finished anything you started." That one landed. Because it used to be true. I looked at him under that buzzing pharmacy light, the man who taught me to ride a bike but never came to my first contractor showcase because it wasn't real work. "I'm signing a lease tomorrow," I said. He blinked. "For what?" "My own storefront." He actually laughed. Not cruel. Just certain. "With what money?" I didn't answer that. Instead, I reached into my truck and handed him a folded contract proposal, the one I'd been carrying for weeks. A local boutique hotel chain wanted custom pieces. 6-figure order. His eyes skimmed the numbers. For the first time in my life he looked unsure. But then he handed it back. "Well," he said carefully, "don't mess it up." He got back in his car. And as he drove away, I realized something strange. He hadn't asked how I did it. Only whether I'd fail. I didn't sleep that night. The warehouse smelled like sawdust and cold metal when I unlocked it at 6:12 a.m. The sun hadn't fully risen yet. The space looked smaller than usual. Or maybe I just felt bigger in it. The contract sat on my workbench next to a half-finished walnut console table. My fingerprints were still dusted across the surface. Imperfect. Human. I ran my hand along the grain. Every piece I built carried some flaw I refused to sand out completely. A knot in the wood. A slight asymmetry. I liked leaving evidence that something had survived pressure. My phone buzzed again. "Olivia, Dad said you're starting a shop." "That's ambitious." I stared at the word. Ambitious. Not impressive. Not proud. Not I'm sorry. Ambitious. I set the phone face down and picked up a pen. The lease agreement was simple. 12 months. Retail front on Main Street. Bigger visibility. Bigger risk. My bank account didn't look like Olivia's LinkedIn page. It looked like overtime hours, contractor invoices, nights I worked through winter with a space heater and a podcast playing in the background. I signed my name slowly. Jasper Reed. For the first time, it didn't feel like a placeholder. It felt like ownership. As I capped the pen, the warehouse door creaked open behind me. I turned, expecting my assistant, Mateo. But it wasn't him. It was Olivia. And she wasn't smiling this time. Olivia stepped inside like the air owed her something. She traded her silk blazer for a long coat, but she still carried that same polished composure, the kind that photographs well but doesn't always hold up in daylight. She looked around at the work tables, stacked lumber, clamps hanging like quiet witnesses. "So this is it," she said. "This is it." Her heels clicked against the concrete floor. I watched her take in the shelves I built by hand, the drafting table scarred with pencil lines, the stack of finished chairs wrapped for delivery. "You didn't tell anyone," she said. "You didn't ask." She folded her arms. "Not defensive, strategic. Dad's worried. Dad's always worried about the wrong things." She exhaled and for a second the mask slipped. "Just a little." "The hotel contract," she said. "You can't take it." I blinked. "Excuse me?" "My firm represents that chain. We're restructuring their vendor list. Smaller independent suppliers aren't stable enough." There it was. Not concern. Control. "You want me to step aside," I said. "It's business, Jasper. Don't make it personal." I almost laughed. Last night she'd made me the punchline in front of 50 people. Now she wanted professionalism. I stepped closer to the table, resting my hand on the signed lease. "You know what's funny?" I said quietly. "You think I'm living off you." She held my gaze. "You don't even realize how much of this family has been living off me." Her expression flickered. Because she knew exactly what I meant. Olivia didn't speak for a moment. The silence between us wasn't empty. It was crowded, with hospital bills, late-night transfers, quiet sacrifices no one had catalogued. "You paid for Dad's surgery," she said finally. Not a question. I nodded once. "And Mom's credit card that year." Another nod. She looked away, jaw tight. "You never said anything." That wasn't the point. The warehouse heater clicked on, filling the space with a low hum. Outside, a delivery truck passed. Life moving forward like it always does. "You let them think you were drifting," she said. "I let them think what was comfortable." Her shoulders lowered slightly. "Not defeated, just recalibrating." "The firm didn't cut you," she admitted. "I did. That one hit cleaner than last night's joke." "Why?" "Because if you succeed at this," she said, eyes steady now, "it changes the story." There it was. The family narrative had always been simple. Olivia rises. Jasper hovers. Predictable roles make people feel safe. I walked past her to the drafting table and pulled out a folder. Inside were revised proposals, diversified clients, direct sourcing, alternate contracts I'd been building quietly in case the hotel deal collapsed. "I don't need your firm," I said calmly. And I don't need the hotel. She stared at the documents. You planned for this? I planned for me. For the first time in my life, my sister looked at me like I wasn't an afterthought. But recognition doesn't equal support. And the real test wasn't her. It was tonight. Because my parents had invited me back for dinner. And this time I wasn't coming empty-handed. The dining room looked exactly the same. Same polished oak table. Same chandelier that flickered if you dimmed it too low. Same framed graduation photos. Olivia centered, me slightly off to the side. Mom had made pot roast. Dad poured wine like we were resetting something. Olivia arrived 5 minutes after me. No banner this time. No speeches. Just tension folded neatly into linen napkins. We ate quietly for a few minutes. Forks against plates. The small sounds families make when they don't know what to say. Dad cleared his throat. Your sister told us about the shop. He said it carefully like it might break. It's opening next month, I replied. Come. Even. Mom smiled too brightly. That's ambitious. There was that word again. I reached into my jacket and placed a single envelope in the center of the table. Inside were copies of the paid medical invoices. The credit card statements marked zero balance. The transfers. Dates. Proof. I didn't want applause, I said. I just wanted accuracy. No one laughed. Dad's face shifted first. Then Mom's. Olivia didn't look surprised. She looked thoughtful. I'm not raising a glass tonight, I continued quietly. I'm just setting something down. I pushed back my chair. For years, you all thought I was living off you. I paused at the doorway. I was investing. Not in money. In distance. In discipline. In silence. The chandelier flickered once as I stepped outside. And for the first time in my life, the house didn't feel like something I was leaving. It felt like something I had outgrown.